And as John's writing, he would say, the one who Jesus loved, which I kind of think is funny, right? All right, we get to John. And the gospel is written by John, the apostle, though he never mentions his name, but he is credited as being the one whom Jesus loved. You've heard that terminology before. There was always one disciple, and as John's writing, he would say, the one who Jesus loved, which I kind of think is funny, right? That'd be like one of us writing about our siblings, and we throw in there, I'm the one mom and dad loved the most, right? And that's what you get from that. So he is saying that he is the one that's loved. John, James, his brother, and Peter formed the inner circle. Jesus was either with the 12 or he was with the 3. James and John and Peter were all at all the major miracles and things that Jesus did. You always would see those 3 were there. John was very close to the same age as Jesus, and we think he lived to about 100 years old. He lived a long time, and his book would have been written last. He's quite different from the other 3 Gospels. Like I said earlier, you have the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're very similar in a lot of the same stories. You can typically find anything in Luke, you can find either in Mark or Matthew. And anything in Matthew, you can find either in Mark or Luke. John writes from a whole different viewpoint. He is emphasizing the king, Jesus, more than the kingdom. When you read the other ones, they're always talking about Jesus is saying, hey, the kingdom is coming, or the kingdom is at hand, the kingdom is near. John is talking about how it's about the king. And so Jesus is portrayed more than as a man. He is God come in the flesh. John really hits that hard. Here's what's interesting. John only covers about 20 days in the life of Jesus. When you read the book of John, he's only covering about 20 days out of 3 years of ministry. But he gives very great details of those 20 days. John's audience were unbelievers. He is writing to people. It doesn't matter whether you're Jewish, whether you're Gentile. If you don't know Christ, he's writing to you. When people come to me and say, give me a book to read, what should be my first book? Many times I'll say, read the book of John, because it is the easiest book for somebody to read who doesn't know about Jewish history or first century. You just read it, and it's pretty plain to read, and you don't have to know a lot of other information to learn about Jesus through John. And so what does the Bible say? This is the purpose of why he wrote. The disciples saw Jesus do many other miraculous signs in addition to the ones recorded in this book. But these are written so that you may continue to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing in him, you will have life by the power of his name. So John is very clear in telling you why he wrote this book, right? Now, how can you obey? When you're reading John, you're going to see the love of God and the love of Jesus portrayed throughout the gospel. He mentions that more than any other Bible writer. There's a lot of similarities between 1 John and John because they talk so much about the love of God.